All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, shipmates of all ages. Welcome back to the Across Your Bow podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Sir Vinyl Mike K. How's it going, everybody? Hopefully life is treating you guys well. With me today is Citizen9, the Citizen S9. How you doing today, man?
A little cold.
A little cold?
It's like 70 degrees out.
Oh, my God, it's 70 degrees and you're cold.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of scared, Venom. I don't know how to do it.
You don't know how to do 70?
It should be 105 out right now.
I like the cold, but
Nah, I love the cold.
I love the cold. I love the rain, and I love the snow. But that's just me. Citizen9, streamer here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Citizen9. You can see him under there. Tell him a little bit about yourself real quick. How many games have you played? What, all that other nonsense?
Let's see. So I started playing the game back in open beta, so we're talking like July 2015. Got around 7,000 plus battles under my belt. Current member of 07, that community, if you guys know who they are. So, yeah, I might have good stats, but I don't like to think that stats mean everything in this game because
they don't.
Everyone can do good.
That's right. Everybody.
No,
can
they
do
mean
good.
everything. Everyone can do good, though.
Yeah. Everybody has the
Except
potential.
for maybe,
if they want to apply themselves. We're looking at you, Falco. Exactly. All right. So here's how the podcast works, boys. Sometimes I'm going to talk about things that you have opinions on. That's right. And all you have to do is to just hold them. I want you to have the thoughts and think of all the stuff, but just hold them until after the show to the Q&A section. Release those thoughts out into the wild. But for now, just relax. Just relax. It'll be easy. It'll be a nice, easy thing for you guys to sit here and watch. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the news. First thing, to start up this show correctly, Halloween event is coming back soon. They still haven't released a date when it was going to be showing up, but I'm assuming it's with the next patch, which is 7.10. There's a couple other things coming up in that we'll talk about here in just a second. So the Halloween event, as you guys know, for the last 2 years have been absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love these things. These things are great, though. You just escort to Transylvania, and then the one for last year where you had to kill the Rasputin when you're in Tier 8 boats. That was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that immensely. I don't know about you. What do you think of those?
No, yeah, I love the Halloween events. I think they're a nice break from the typical stagnation kind of what random battles can feel like. So it changes up the pace and just gives you some fun mechanics, and you just get to play against some bots. So you're not really worried about what your team's doing half the time.
Right. That's always a fun time. So they're bringing in not just the normal mode, but they're bringing in 5 modes this time around. 5 game modes. So
we're talking about the last few years plus the new ones?
Yeah. So we have the escort mission is coming back. The I call it the kill mission, but I don't know. I don't remember what the hell it's called. But the where you're killing Rasputin as he's coming through that green nonsense. And then the submarine mode. Those are all the three game modes that you're going to be able to actually play. And then they're bringing in 2 more modes, which are the escort and the kill mode in hard version. So you guys will get a little bit a heftier challenge in that. What do you think of hard mode?
So I haven't seen anything regarding hard mode, but I remember when they first introduced operations into the game that hard mode was something we were going to be looking at, but they never actually implemented it. So hopefully this is their way to test it and see if we can get some hard mode operations in the actual game. And it should actually, hopefully give us an actual challenge to where it's not just point and click adventure. You actually have to think about how to beat the bots for once. So
right.
That should be pretty fun.
I always like a challenge, and I know whenever a new operation comes out, we hit it for a couple of hours, the first day, and then maybe the second day we hit it for an hour or something like that.
Okay. I think I might be getting interrupted right now. 1 second.
All right.
Sorry, this is contractors, man. I did not know about it happening until tomorrow. I'll be right back. Wait 1 sec.
Well, either way, guys, so that's something that you guys have to look forward to. Hard mode coming in. So you'll probably lose a couple of games. To the bots, and there's really nothing you can do about it other than figure out and think out how how you are going to be able to beat these bots as they come into hard mode. I know there on the channel we like to take people who may or may not have done the hard mode or done any of the regular missions yet, and if they haven't done any of the regular missions, we like to do something along the lines of.
All right, sorry about that, Venom.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, one contractor's done.
Right.
We're all good. All right, where'd we leave off?
Just hard mode. I mean, we like to take people in the channel and get them their 5 stars because the one thing about all these new things, the Halloweener mode and some of these other missions is that you do them once or twice and then you're like, okay, I'm done with it. And it's always that hard challenge that I look for. I don't know about you, but I look for those hard challenges so we can actually sit there and not necessarily grind this thing out, but it's just some kind of relief from the monotony of the grind and the repetitiveness of what comes along with random mode or.
Yeah, I actually hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it will actually give us a little bit more time with these because typically when I play an operation, especially the ones that are normal in the game, it's one and done. Like, I think the most operation I've ever played was Cherry Blossom, and at that one I've only done it like 5 times at most, but this should give us a bit of a challenge and hopefully make it last a little bit longer and the longevity of it, so it's not just one and done, now back to random battles. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's, not only that, but I don't know how the word I'm looking for. Unless they reward these things good, people won't play them. You're seeing that right now with Arms Race. Unless they have a good reward, if I'm going to have to spend my flags and all my camos on these things, I want a good, decent reward for it. And Arms Race just has kind of failed at capturing the attention. As good as these operations are. I think that they're not rewarded as well. The first time you do it, fine, but there's no repetitive.
No incentive to go back.
Yeah, what do you get if you go back and do it for Operation of the Week? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing really. Yeah. So that's always going to be a one and done style of thing as an event. But Halloween, it comes around once every year, and we hit it hard for about a week, 2 weeks, or something like that, and then we just kind of let it go because usually we're getting geared up for the next rank season or clan battle season at the same time.
Yeah, and for me it's a little bit different just because the amount of battles I've actually, what I like to call is I've beaten World of Warships because I have every tier 10 and I have enough free XP on my account that if I wanted those carriers I could get them. So there's nothing that I really grind for except maybe the legendary tier 10 modules. So for me, a reward-based system doesn't really give me much, unless I'm looking for flags. But other than that, or steel. Steel's the only thing I actually want in this game right now.
Steel's the only thing that's thing that's worth playing for at the moment.
That is true. And
coal is kind of useless. I mean, especially when you have everything. I'm over 13,000 games now, Citizen. 13,000 games in randoms alone. That's not including the 2,000 or 3,000 games that I've played over the course of 6 seasons of ranked season and some other stuff. But
I don't think coal's worthless. I kind of like it because you can buy those modules and you can stock up on some flags using those coupons that they give you, so I like it for that. But the Go Navy event was very good to me. I went from like 50,000 coal. I'm sitting on over 250,000, and I haven't played in a month, so wow. I'm just rolling in coal right now. Yeah, I could buy the Salem, but
I went ahead and bought the Salem for 180,000 coal. And do I play it? Barely, because it's a cruiser. I don't play cruisers that often. I do a little bit, but not that often. And the only thing I have left to get out of that arsenal for coal is the Yabari, and why would I want that boat right now? So I'm really at a loss here. I probably end up buying debt flags. I think that's what all my coal is going to end up going to, is buying debt flags for rank seasons that are coming up.
Yeah, pretty much just.
Which is a pretty good segue into our next topic here. The next ranked season. There's going to be 2 of them coming up relatively quickly. The Tier 5 Ranked Sprint. It's pretty interesting. So hang on, and I'll give you some details here. Tier 5 Ranked. It's going to be a big race with Epicenter on it. You have New Dawn, which we've seen before. Trident, we've seen before. Straight, we remember from the Tier 6 rank season. Ring from the Tier 6 rank season as well. And then a new one for this season was Arpeggio. That's going to be a new addition to the ranked maps. I don't know, man. These maps are fun. I think it's okay to have them on the smaller maps. I'm just glad I'm not seeing Fault Line anymore on this one. Fault Line is a terrible ranked map. What do you think of the maps?
Yeah, looking at this map list, I like a lot of the maps that they currently have set up. These are lower tier maps, so they're pretty much smaller, but you got to keep in mind lower tier ships also are significantly slower, and they also have less range to work with, especially when we're talking about the battleships. But these should be some good maps. It's nice because you can finally experience a ranked competitive environment in a different map setting than what I felt for the last several seasons, which is I'm playing on the same 5 maps over and over and over again. And so this will at least bring a little bit different.
You get to see some of the failings of those maps after you've played them for 3 or 4 seasons, and some of us end up playing hundreds of games on these maps. Mountain Range is got to go. It is the absolute worst. I think the worst ranked map that I've ever seen. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the current ranked maps for their 10 season?
The current ranked maps for the last season, I actually liked most of them. The only one I didn't like was the one with Thunderdome. I can't actually remember the name of the map. Is it Sleeping Giant? But the one where the one cap isn't totally circled by islands.
You know, a lot of people don't like that map, and I find that map very interesting to play.
The reason I don't like that map is because if you're going to the one side that has 2 flags on it, you cannot support the other side very well, and I just feel as if it's a little too stagnant for ranked. And ranked does not need any more stagnation.
It's already enough campy in there.
Yeah, it's got the potential to be the most slowest, boring game mode possible, so it needs ways to speed it up.
Especially being at that high tier where ranges are 36 kilometers if you put up a plane plus. It can get pretty standoffish. And I've noticed. I played a lot of games in the Yu Yang this season, and when we were playing on on Sleeping Giant, that if you went and fought for A, your team was probably going to have a really nice lead once you cap that A, because they would be hard pressed to root anybody out of there without
Yeah, I just didn't like the map just because of the stagnation. I might be one of those weird people who, after going on Reddit, apparently the community despises Mountain Range, and that's one of my favorite maps in the game.
Wow. I just find it, I find it, not the map in general, just the way the players play it. I don't know. This is a community issue, and I play a lot of DDs. I've ranked out in DDs every season for 6 seasons now, and so I have a little. I don't like going to Charlie on that map.
No,
I can't do it. I mean, like, I have the first 2 seasons, or the first time that I ever played on that board was a tier 8 rank season, and everybody was like, "Hey, you're in the Low Yang, go to Charlie," and I'm like, "Okay, I go to Charlie." I end up dying about 70% of the time in the first 5 minutes of the game because I went to Charlie because nobody else is there to support it. So I said, "Forget that. I'm not going to that cap anymore." And so for 3 seasons now, I've been called a trash player, a couple other choice names that I'm going to refrain from, but like, I don't trust my team to defend me. And then when the guy that's calling me the pooper head that sits there and he's like, "Well, I'm going to take my DD in there," and I'm like, "That's a mistake. It's a trap. They're not going to be able to support you." And then they die. I get blamed for not going in there. And I'm like, "What's the difference between me dying in the first 5 minutes and you dying in the first 5 minutes?" Yeah. Just leave it there. If they want to support it, fine, let them support it. But let them do their thing with their radar, and I'm going to go over to the other side of the board, and I'm going to try to hunt that DD going across the map.
Yeah, and I think what it really boils down to with ranked and DDs is it's currently a radar issue that needs to really be addressed, I feel like. It's one of those things where I played very few DD games this last season. The season before, I don't think I played any. And the reason for that is it's just not something that I find enjoyable anymore. Yeah, I agree with Inverto in chat. It's just, it feels like you're just kind of there to be bullied, and so that's why I like to play the other types of ships in ranked. That is.
Well, that leads us into another point of conversation, which I will talk about here in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah. So moving on here from the maps and going into division play. This is something brand new to ranked season that people have been asking for a long, long time, and they're finally going to give it to us. Which I really never really cared if we played in divisions or not. So this is just kind of another day for me. But 2-man divisions. You're going to have a maximum of 2-man teams. You can have 3 divisions per team because the first shot of the season is a 6v6. The second shot of the season is an 8v8. And you can have a maximum of 4 divisions on a team. You can play solo, but if you play solo, you're going to have at least 1 solo player on the enemy team. So it's going to be matched. If you have 2 divisions, they'll have 2 divisions, and then 2 solo players on each team. If you have 1 division, and so on and so on, it will be a 1 carrier matchup at tier 5, where you can, and there's only maximum of 1 carrier per division. So and per team per division.
So I've read the rules on this new ranked season. The division play something is something that I have actually asked for on my stream multiple times, that we need to increase ranked to 8v8, and I see that they're going to run these 2 separate seasons, 6v6 and then 8v8, because it'll let people do 2-man divisions, so that way each team can have 3 full. And I think it's a good idea to test, and I actually really like that Wargaming is doing these seasons, not because they look perfect in design, they have several flaws in my eyes, but what they're doing is that they're trying something new, and that is better than what we had for the last several seasons of Ranked, which is a system that a lot of people feel, myself included, is clearly broken and needs to be fixed. The only problem I do have one problem with the division play, and that's to keep a star. That one person keeps a star. So what if you have a division that just totally carries the team but can't really do it, and then now it's which member of the division did better,
Yeah, well, it's probably going to be that battleship that did better if he got any kind of damage at all.
Exactly.
As we found out in this last ranked season at how disparaging the XP gains for destroyers were. For example, and I know I'm segueing into another conversation for another time, but I had 138,000 damage in my Yu Yang, 3 caps, and 100% of the DD, and I kept my star by 2 points.
Yeah,
on that
exactly.
Loss. And I'm like, what? I've done so much. I had
one of the fundamental reasons.
I had almost 1 million damage tanked, or potential damage. I had 800,000 spotting damage, and what happens? I keep my star by 2 points. There was a big disparity, and I blame that on the Sims at tier 7, because instead of fixing the Sims the way it works, they nerfed it for the entire class, and it's kind of hard. But let's go into the rules here. Players need to have a level 14 service record to participate in the ranked battles. By winning players earn stars and need to climb to the ranking ladder. At the majority of the ranks, a defeat means a lost star. Player with the most XP base on a team does not lose a star on defeat. Team lineups are mirrored in terms of ship types and tiers. So if you have 2 battleships on one side, you'll have 2 on the other. The number of ranks is 10, which is less than a regular season, which is 23. The ranks are combined into 2 leagues. The first league is from rank 10 through 6, and the second league is from rank 5 to 1. Players can only fight in tier 5 ships. All players in the start battles in rank 10. Rank 10, 9, 8, 5, and 3 are irrevocable. Players cannot lose stars in ranks 10 and 9. So, whatever. Yeah, even if you lose, you're not going anywhere. Players receive a bonus star for each new rank acquired. So if you if you go from 6 to 5, you automatically get that first star in there, which means you can lose twice before you drop out of that rank, which is good.
Well, there is the bonus star.
Yeah. The first season, like we said, is played 6 versus 6, which will start on October the 19th. And run through the 31st, the end of the month. So this is going to be, I'm going to have like maybe 6 days to rank out, which shouldn't be too terrible. But, we got TwitchCon coming up on the 24th. It's when I'm leaving 24th, and we won't be back until probably the 30th. So I'll have 2 days after I get back from TwitchCon to rank out. The second season is going to be an 8 versus 8. It'll go from November the 1st to November the 13th. So you have 12 total days to rank out on that one as well. Ah, man. That's a short time for this thing, but, really, realistically, what is it, 21 wins?
Yeah. Yeah, it is true. It is only 12 days. It's a really short season, but they are calling it a sprint, and that's pretty accurate. Now, you really shouldn't have any problems ranking out. There's several factors to essentially force you to rank out. The first one is that there are 5 irrevocable ranks, I believe, in a 10-rank season, so there's no excuse for you to not be able to keep advancing if you're really putting in some time for it. The other one is that all players start at rank 10, and there's only 2 leagues. Now, I don't know if anyone's played down at rank 23 before, but the quality of play there is
pretty bad,
questionably bad. So it's not going to be hard for a lot of not very good players to make it into League 2. So if you're a decent player at best, if you're average like Venom, you should have no problem.
We should have no problems ranking out.
Yeah.
Well, I think just the fact that it's tier 5, the sheer number and the sheer volume of players is going to overshadow a lot of this other stuff. So these 2-man divisions, I know you and your guys, whoever you decide to division with up at the time, you guys are going to run rough.
Going to be all over me.
Yeah, you guys are going to run roughshod over most of these guys. Anybody that I choose to pick, we should do rather well together. I think it'll probably be me and Fitz if we can get hooked up. And then maybe the second season or something like that. I take somebody from the chat and we go rank out in an 8v8 scenario. Who knows? I mean, that'd be something to do. It shouldn't take too long for people to rank out. I know there's going to be a lot of frustration dealing with some of these players that have maybe 100 games and they're like, oh, let's try out ranked, and I'm like, oh my god, you don't need to be here because you're an idiot. But that's par for the course, and you find that at tier 10. So.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, you're gonna find really terrible players at any tier you play in this game. That's standard. And honestly, really, what people need to realize is focus on this and feel like it's a different version of tier 5 random battles. It's gonna be pseudo competitive, and I say pseudo because of how easy it is to access this ranked, how short it is, and the other thing is that the rewards on it are actually, in my opinion, pretty terrible.
Yeah.
So
we'll
it's
get to the rewards
not.
Here in a
Yeah,
second.
we'll get to that eventually, but it's just gonna feel like a different form of random battles. That's how I've kind of judged rank the last few seasons. That's why I'm a terrible person, but I would stream it without a delay or map coverage, and I just wouldn't care because it's like they haven't really brought competitive to ranked yet, and I know what they're doing with the season is trying something different, and this is going to be it's going to be a mess of a season. I can already tell, but it isn't a season that you should be playing for too long, because you should just play your few games and rank out eventually. Any one person can go on a 6-game win streak. It's not that hard, and then rank out. So you shouldn't have issues with this. It should be just a fun, enjoyable experience, whereas I know for a lot of people, ranked before has not been an enjoyable experience for them, and it just kind of makes you question, why are you playing ranked?
Ranked is a frustrating experience all around. Right. I know for me, when I'm sitting there and I'm, at the beginning of the season, I went 108 games to hit rank 5 this season, right? Yeah, and then it was another 107 games before I even touched rank 4 for the first time.
Oh God, Venom.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I don't know how you do that.
And it's like, I don't feel like I'm playing terrible. It's just the teams aren't doing what they need to do to help me win. And I know it's not all about me. I'm not that conceited or arrogant of a player to say, hey, I make mistakes like everybody else does, but it's a matter of what's going to do best for the team. Where am I going to put myself that's going to be best for the team, which is a different mentality that I have than everybody else does, because most of those guys are on immediate save a star mode and they don't care. So moving on to first rank, rank 1 is the final achievable rank. Players who reach the first rank can no longer participate in battles further of the current season because you're done, and the Sea Wolves League is unavailable. So there's no rank 1 league like there is. Do you ever play any of those rank 1 leagues?
You can't queue into them unless your clan really tries their ass off to coordinate a game. I know it was a joke, but Kebabs put a picture on Reddit of him sitting in queue for 10 straight hours for rank 1 Seawolves League. Never got into a game. And it's something that I rank out constantly. I think I've done it 5 times now. Never once played a Seawolves game.
Man,
And it's just not something that happens. This would be a good season to actually play them because so many people are going to rank out that they will actually have enough people for them to exist. Queues for tier 5 ranked, even at higher ranks, should not go more than a minute, honestly. Yeah. Because there's just going to be so many people who can actually play these games that you'll actually have the ability to do so. But I get that they're just trying to test something, so I would expect the Seawolves to come back maybe once they refine more of this. But for now, I can understand why they don't want it, because they just don't want to have to put a reward-based system for Seawolves League.
Well, the rewards are negligible, for winning. I think you get, 200 steel or something this year? I can't remember. I've never...
5,000 coal.
5,000 coal. There you go. The rewards for this season, guys, is when you hit rank 1 is 5,000 gold. It's
coal.
Coal. Anyway, it's some coal. Maybe they give you a flag or something, but I don't even think that that's in the list. There's some other flags at rank 5 through 1, and then some other random nonsense. Nothing special. I think really reward system just to do it. I think that's more along the lines of I want to play randoms, but I'm having a hard time wanting to play randoms because I've just spent 412 games ranking out and beating my head up against a wall, and now I can relax a little bit. But it's just like, dude, I need a break. I mean, like after the first ranked tier 10 season, I quit playing the game for a month. That's just the way it was. I was so frustrated and flustered with the game, and not just the game, but the mentality of the community. The mentality of the players in the community, and the way that higher tier gameplay is very slow and very boring, and I don't enjoy it. I think the most enjoyable tiers are the lower tiers at this point.
I disagree with the fun factor of lower tiers. That's just because I feel as if I'm a good enough player that I can make tier 10 fun. However, that's not to say I don't enjoy lower tiers. I do enjoy those tiers. I have too many premiums to count on my account, and it really depresses me sometimes. But I do enjoy going down and playing around a lot. But if you ever watch my stream, I play way too much tier 10 for my own good. But I understand that for a lot of people, it's just stagnant in comparison to something that you can find at tier 7. So that is something that is true. And you got to admit that if ranked is so frustrating to play that your players do not want to play your game for a month, you have fundamentally flawed your system. And so Wargaming does need to fix that, because if that's happening to you, how many other people is that happening to?
I know a lot of people didn't play this. I know a lot of people who just flat didn't play tier 10 rank season. We had 2 people rank out in our clan, myself and Fitz and your mom. That's it, only 2 of us. There was several other people started to play it, but they get so frustrated very quickly that they're just like, I'm done, I don't want to play it anymore. And they just don't. And some people just flat out didn't even give it a shot this time because they had such a struggle bus in the last season. I think we had 3-4 people rank out last season. I just think it's the tier, man. I mean, like tier 10 is not a very. I don't think it's a very balanced tier. Meaning one particular line of ships is so strong that it outweighs everything else that happens at tier 10, and you see a lot of that at tier 7 at the same way. And if you guys have ever watched the stream before, you guys are fixing to know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it again anyway, just for podcast sake. Tier 7 and tier 10 are the worst tiers for ranked, because the cruisers are so strong that they outdo anything that the battleships are able to counter with, and they outdo the destroyers. They have too much of an advantage over the destroyers and the battleships at that tier, meaning the game slows way down, and it's all based on that cruiser play. Whereas tier 8 and tier 6, the destroyers are good, The cruisers aren't as good as they are at those other tiers, and the battleships still have an ability to do what they're supposed to do versus these cruisers. You see that at tier 10, you see it at tier 7 with the negativity for everything else but the cruisers, and then tier 8 and 6 are the better ones because the destroyers are good, the cruisers are good, the battleships are fantastic, and it's a pretty balanced tier at 6 and 8 where you don't see it at the other one.
I would agree. I actually used to hate any ranked at all until the Smokefire changes actually got changed, because it used to just be I'm a DD and my only job is to just sit here and press T on this group of people. I actually, last tier 8 rank season, I know that was 100 years ago. That was without a doubt my favorite season of rank they've ever done. And the reason for that is because the DDs could go be DDs. And the battleships had to figure out how to survive under fire, which is something that I already know how to do pretty well. It's all just about managing your heals and your reps. So it was more fun because it wasn't just, I can't see anyone and I'm just going to get shot a lot and my DDs aren't smoking me, so I'm kind of just shit out of luck if I'm playing a battleship, or if I'm playing a cruiser, my battleship just got nuked. I could play everything. The only thing I didn't like about tier ranked was the Hydro Range or the Low Yang, but there were counters to that. But
the thing about the Low Yang is, and I know that's probably the best DD at tier 8 for ranked situations because of the Hydro. But when you really think about it, everything else on that boat is terrible. The guns are terrible. The torpedoes don't hit any at all. I mean, everything else. I mean, so you take that one thing, you wait for 2 minutes or whatever, and then you could just roll right in on it and kill it. I mean, it's not going to outgun anything, except maybe a Kagero or something. But
it'll outgun the IJNDD, except for the Harakaze. Harakaze will eat it alive. The only problem I have with Low Yang Hydro, and you two have no idea where each other are, and you just run into each other going head on, you kind of just get outplayed because that person has a T button. That's the only thing I didn't like about that ship.
He got the smoke.
But you're right.
Into the smoke. Yeah.
I mean, other than its maneuverability, you're right. Everything about that ship is worse than its tier. It's guns, torpedoes, and health pool. No. Except for not compared to the IJNDs, but they have something better for that.
Well, they can outspot that Low Yang, so that
exactly.
works out too.
That's what I mean. Yep.
Yeah. So moving on into the next thing. Speaking of destroyers, let's go ahead and move into our first topic of the night, boys. We're going to talk about the state of destroyers in the game currently, and what we think, are they good or if they're bad. So let me just preface this, and so you kind of get an idea where I'm going with the whole conversation. I think that destroyers are they're in a pretty decent state of the game. They're very strong, but they do kind of get overshadowed a little bit by that ever-present radar button. And I know that there is a change coming to the Seattle and the Worcester, which is fantastic, and I'm glad that they did it. I'm glad that they are doing this change because they're lowering the radar to 9 flat kilometers, so they cannot stealth radar, and which I think it's fantastic. What are your thoughts so far?
So I really like the change that the Worcester is going to be receiving now. Worcester is one of my favorite ships. Sorry, Worcester over here. But I like that change because when I played ranked this last season, you don't understand, because I don't run a 9.5 concealment Worcester. I run the rudder shift, so you don't understand how truly broken being able to stealth radar DD in the Worcester is until you're on the receiving end of it. And I was on the receiving end of it because I played some DD this last season just to hate myself, and honestly, it is the least fun experience I think you can possibly have, and under no circumstances should any ship in this game be able to stealth radar.
So about the Minotaur, because I mean,
the Minotaur is a special case.
We played the radar Minotaur to some pretty good success the season before. Yeah. I didn't play it this season, but
you can do really good things in the radar Minotaur. In fact, before the Worcester came out, I used to run that as my little meme fun time. But it's a little broken too, because while the Minnow is really fragile, it also gets a super heal to make up for it. And if you know how to make sure you don't get deleted, you can dumpster DDs with the minnow in ways that are kind of unfair to them. And because of the minnow, it's actually got more DPM than a Wooster. So if you're DD and you get caught by a minnow, your only option is to stop and back up. If you try to turn out, you're going to lose almost all of your HP.
Yeah, I know when I was playing it, I had a hard time. When those guys would get penciled in running away from me, I would do 5 or 6K to them in one volley when they would make their turn. But once they got penciled in, it was almost impossible to get them down. And I know in the Yu Yang this season, I had about a 10,000 hit point Minotaur come around a corner on me and radar me. And I was able to put him down just by sitting bow in with like 5,000 hit points left. So so that's
your only strategy.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can do. You just have to fight it and hopefully somebody can help you out. If not, then do whatever you can to ram the guy, I guess.
Yeah, I remember when Radar first came out with the Russian cruisers, and then a week later we got it on the Americans. And at first, I was a full-blown cruiser main at the time, and I loved it. I thought Radar was the best. I was just like, this is amazing. But then I started to move back into DDs and get those played up a lot more. And I just think that Radar is overtuned, in my opinion, because it's not a nerf to smoke Radar. It's a nerf to concealment itself.
It's a nerf to one entire class.
And I don't think Radar should have super long cooldowns. I don't think any consumable should have that like stupid long cooldowns. That's why spotter planes with like a 6-minute base cooldown is dumb to me, but I think Radar range across the board has always been way too high in this game. It should be a way to equalize a DD somewhat. It shouldn't completely remove the DD from being able to do its job. So I think Radar should be around 8 kilometers across the board for everyone.
Well, they did something with the Salem, which I totally agreed with, and they put an 8.5 kilometer radar in this thing.
Right.
Yeah, it still lasts as long as the Demoni's radar does.
No, to Atlanta, it should only go for 20.
Well, even with the module, you can get up to 35 seconds or so.
Right.
Either way, doesn't really matter. I think the Salem is probably the most balanced Tier 10 boat with radar out there, for the simple fact that it has to put itself into some kind of peril to be effective with its radar. It can't just sit 10 kilometers away, cover the entire cap, and then never really do anything other than push that button. And that's another part of the stagnation of gameplay that we were talking about earlier, is they don't have to put them, there's no risk factor involved. Now, playing as a DD is probably the most butt-clenching moments ever when you're playing in any kind of situation, ranked season or randoms, because there's always that button, okay, you have to pay attention from the first time you get radared and then know the timers on them, just like any other game out there. His radar should be back up pretty quick, and here it comes, and there it is. So we have to play according to that, and I think it slows the game down and pushes the game further away. So toning down of it, maybe maximum 8.5 kilometers, I'd be okay with. And then if you really wanted to cut down the Russians, cut it to 10. And I
honestly think Russians should just have the same radar as the Americans in duration and the distance that they go. I think radar should be a consumable that allows you to kill a DD that puts itself out of position. But the way it feels now is that there's not much counterplay to it, and if you get radared, well, you're kind of shit out of luck. Good luck, buddy. Try not to die. And a lot of the times that's just not something you can feasibly do, especially since the Wooster came out and it was, oh, I spotted the cruiser. Oh, and the cruiser spotted me. And I get blopped because his HE DPM is over 400,000.
His HE DPM is ridiculous. So, guys, we're sitting here talking with Citizen S9. You guys can find him over at twitch.tv/citizens9. We'll have some links, guys. If y'all have any questions for us or comments or concerns, hit up at Sir Venom IK or at Citizen9, and we will answer those questions after we get done with at the end of the show for about 10 or 15 minutes. So go ahead and do that. So anyway, moving back into destroyers, what do you think, other than the radar, is the biggest challenge for a destroyer in the current meta right now?
So I'm going to move off the face cam just because I need to put my dogs out of my room. But I think the biggest challenge for a destroyer in this current meta right now is how to position yourself to actually be effective for your team without getting yourself killed. A lot of people seem to not understand how to play a DD around radar right now, so they'll take unnecessary risks. I'm doing something, hold on. And so they'll take unnecessary risks or just put themselves in terrible positioning that just does not allow them to survive if something bad were to possibly happening to them. So I think people just, because in my opinion, destroyers are the hardest class in this game to play, not counting aircraft carriers, and I just see a lot of people misplay with them on how they put their ships in situations and how to effectively use their destroyer. So
I tend to agree with that. I mean, positioning, I've always said it, and I've said it here a lot. I think positioning and where you put your shots at and paying attention to the minimap are the only skills in this game that you need. That's it. It's 30% skill, 70% RNGs, because as soon as you throw those shots out there, it's all up to RNG if you're going to hit, if you're going to set a fire, if you're going to punish him, or if you're just going to bounce off the Citadel instead of actually pinning the Citadel. There's
over pin it.
Yeah, there's a lot of RNG factors in this game, which I think bring the game down. But some of the things that you can actually control is your position on the map, and I think that is the most important thing. That and a close second is paying attention to the flow of the game, and that flow of the game cannot be taught to anybody. I pride myself I pride myself here on the channel by trying to help people learn the game, but the way I help people learn the game is through the basics. Because if we can give you a good base of knowledge about the game, because I mean, me and you can sit here for the next 3 hours and just regurgitate facts. Okay, this is it. This blah blah blah. This is that. This is that. And nobody's going to understand it until they actually get in and actually put their hands on things. So get out there, play with your positions. Watch that mini-map, turn the markers on, turn the last known positions on, turn the names on the mini-map, so you're not going into a situation where I didn't even know the guy was there. While I was on the mini-map, you should have known that guy was there. So that's the only part of skill that you have to do with this game. Knowing so how do you think that they can fix some of these people's mentality? I mean, is there a fix for this mentality? I have no idea.
Like the mentality of what exactly?
Just the way people play the DD. I mean, like most of the times you see this DD, I'm going to B, and they run straight in there. They pop their smoke. Okay. They sit broadside. There's something to be said. You don't have to go into the cap at the beginning of the game, and this is something I get you. Yeah, this is something that I've been fighting for my entire 13,000 games or however many I've played in the Destroyer of I've got to get this cap. And it wasn't until the last 2 rank seasons that taught me something, that you don't have to go into the cap early to still be able to win the game. And I think a lot of the player base loses that, doesn't know that, or they think you're terrible for not going in there. I got called a trashy player playing a Grozavoy on loop, and they were like, why don't you get into B and defend that cap? And I'm like, dude, there's a CV out there. I don't know where their radar is. I'm not going into that cap yet. And there's a Shimakaze that's on the other side of that cap. No, this guy's going to outspot me. I'm going to get radared. I'm going to be dead. And then you're going to complain that I died early and call me a trash player. We ended up winning that game pretty handily. And the guy was like, I was on top of the team at the end of the game with 4 caps. So, I mean, what can you do?
Yeah, so I have actually play a DD and how to help that mentality out. The first thing that you should always ask yourself at all times when playing a DD, this also helps for other classes of ships, but if you're playing a DD, ask yourself, what happens if I get spotted right now? Because sometimes you'll just get radared behind an island, you had no idea the ship was there. Okay, you're spotted now. How do you react? Or, you ran into an enemy DD. What happens? So always know how to get out of a situation. And do not put yourself in a situation in which you have no potential escape. Because if that's the case and you're playing a DD, you don't have the health. You're kind of just dead. So if you're going to be that person who enters a cap, sits in their smoke screen, Okay, what happens if you get radared? Well, now you're stopped. You're dead. What happens if you have your smoke? Okay, cool. You got radared. Still kind of worthless, but yeah, you should always have the mentality of what can I do in this situation to keep my ship alive, because that is the most important thing in a DD. It's not damage. It's keeping your ship alive. The battleships and the cruisers will give you the damage. Your DD is there to make sure the battleships and the cruisers can get their potential out. The only thing that your ship is good for damage, unless you have the Kaba, is torpedoes, or if you can use smoke effectively. But you always need to know how to keep yourself in the right situation to not just explode. And that's the thing that I see a lot of people fail at, and that's why typically DDs don't last very long into the game, is that just people don't know how to survive in rough situations.
Ration their hit points out.
Ration your hit points, yes. And there are some other factors, like, oh, I'm a Kaba, Rosevoy, or the upcoming British one where I have a heal, so I'll just press T.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah.
But those are only the high tier ships and a couple premium exceptions, so.
Right. Now, when all right, so let's get off of the negativities of destroyers. What do you think positive, what's going right for the destroyers right now in the current meta? Because I tell you what, I've enjoyed I enjoyed the rank grind. As many games as it did take, I really got and fell in love with the Yu Yang and its ability to pretty much dominate everybody but the Russians and the Harry Gumo, but that's another story.
Yeah, definitely a transition there. Some things I do like that DD experiencing more is we are seeing more heals on DDs with the Grozovoy, and now we're going to see it on the Daring. I think it's a little overtuned on the Daring, but it's nice because you have a class of ship where if you make a mistake, you pretty much lose almost all of your hit points, whereas these ships now have the ability to get it back. So I do like more heals. I think I'm one of those weird people who thinks a lot of ships in this game should have a heal, and so that way you can make a mistake and come back from it in this game. But DDs just don't have that ability. Other things I like about DDs is a lot of them actually at tier 10 have surprisingly good gun power, to the point where I build full guns on DDs that most people would never. Like the Z52, I build a full gunboat build on it, and I just dock people with AP.
The previous tier 10 rank season, I ranked out on the Z52.
Oof.
And it was so much fun. I enjoyed so much of it. And people, I remember several super purple unicorn players talking trash. Why are you playing the Z52 when the Yu Yang is so much better? Well, at that point in time, I had just unlocked the Yu Yang, and I had no games in it, and I was not going to learn how to play the Yu Yang in a ranked setting just because I had it, you know what I'm saying? So I was more comfortable in the 52, and I played it pretty well. I enjoyed it, and we ranked out, and people were like, "Oh my God, how many people ranked out in the Z52?" I don't know, a couple of people maybe. I know some people this season ranked out in that Harry Gumo, and that is a ridiculous boat.
Yeah, talk about overtuned.
Yeah, it's getting out of hand. I think a little bit with some of the fire rates. If we're talking Worcester, we're talking Harry Gumo, Kitakaze. The fire rates on these things are insane. And not only that, but it also goes to the fire chance that is also on these boats. Even though that it's very low, just the amount of shells that you're putting out are ridiculous, and then they're setting fire. So that's another positive for you are able to actually get damage if you have time to work a battleship. And the best thing to see for you as one of these destroyers is a battleship that is just sitting still. Yamatos. I loved shooting at Yamatos because they would just sit there and bow in, and that was the meta for Yamatos for such a long time. You get to an angle to where they're sitting behind something, and then and then here we go.
Yeah. The Harugumo is a little bit tuned in terms of its DPM. I can't agree with that. One positive thing for the DDs is actually going to be.
Right, say that again. You cut off there.
Oh, sorry. It's my internet right now.
No,
one positive thing that I see coming for the DDs in the future is actually the CV rework. Because carriers are going to be changed quite significantly to only have that one squad up at a time. DD should be able to reduce their visibility and not get nuked like they do off the face of the map. Right now, as it stands, if a tier 10 carrier wants to kill a DD, congratulations. Unless you're a Grozvoy, you're already dead. That's just not a fun way to feel as a DD player. So that is going to be one positive that does come into the DD realm for them, and I do like that that's going to show up soon.
Well, there's also another. I see that the CV rework I'm still holding opinions on right now until we actually can get in there and play it. I'm gonna reserve my opinions because I think that the CV rework for DDs is gonna make it worse because those rockets are gonna absolutely obliterate you, and this will lead us into our next topic. But and we're not going there yet. But the HE and those HEs I feel do way more damage and way more effective, and I get hit for 8,000 damage from boats 2 tiers below me. I think HE's overtuned versus destroyers, but that's another story for the next topic that we'll get into here in a minute. So anyway, so all of these rockets and all the fires and everything, I think the entire game is gone away from one-shotting people for a battleship to you see an inordinate amount of overpins on everything now. I still occasionally get the one-shot guy on destroyers, but very rarely at high tiers anymore, especially broadsides on Worcesters and broadsides on Clevelands now. Even you can't really devastate these guys as you used to be able to 6 to 8 months ago. There's a fundamental flaw in that. And then for destroyers, man, I tell you what, I'm pretty happy with the state of destroyers right now. They're pretty strong. When they fixed this stupid thing that should never have happened, that delay on rendering. I still see it every once in a while. Like I have a hydro at 3 kilometers, and the guy doesn't show up until 2.4. I've had that a couple of times, but for the most part, the rendering issue hasn't been too bad anymore. I mean, like the previous seasons, tier 8 ranked seasons, where I started really noticing it when I would play, let's say, a Harakaze at 5.4 and the Benson on the other side showed up at 5.6. That's 200 meters that I lost being able to react to this guy because of that delay. So when they fixed that made the destroyers a lot more enjoyable for me to play, a lot more consistent, I guess, if that's the right word for it.
Yeah, and consistency is key for a reason. So the rendering delay depends on the person too, because sometimes his rendering delay could be stupidly long. I've had times where I've rendered delayed on an enemy ship on a DD versus DD fight, and I just start getting shit on by the enemy DD, and I can't even spot him. Yeah. That has been the most frustrating thing I've ever experienced in this game. So yeah, that should help out, especially with the more stealthy DDs, allowing them to actually use their concealment in a better way. But as far as any other rendering delays, I do like that it was fixed. It was something that really needed to be addressed for a long time, and it should never have been in the game in the first place.
There's somebody outside your window.
Hi, Mom. And dogs. That's my mom.
Yeah, we see the feet down there. Anyway, so like I said, DDs I feel they're in a pretty decent state. The only caveat being the radar and the fact that it is a perfect thing that you cannot counter at the moment, and I don't like the feeling of frustration that you cannot. There's no recourse. You have zero recourse for it because everything should have a counter in this game, and everything does have a counter in this game except for radar. I mean everything. I mean, like the smoke has a radar. The smoke counter is radar, or torpedoes or hydro or whatever you have to do. Get in close enough. That's all counters for smoke, which they neutered smoke, which they desperately needed to when the change hit.
Smoke used to be too much.
I still think that they could have done it a different way, and it would have improved gameplay and sped up games a little bit. I think what was the average gameplay in somewhere around 12 to 15 minutes. I think was the average game. Which is not a terrible game when you think of some League Legends games go average 30 minutes or more. So that's okay. But but I still feel that they are rewarding the passiveness of gameplay, especially with something like the smoke, where the guy at 18 kilometers can still see my Kudryashov at 7.5. You know what I'm saying? When I'm sitting in my smoke, somebody spots me, and that guy at 18 kilometers can just jack me up before I'm able to do anything. I think that maybe they should have done something a little bit different with the smoke, say like with the Cyclone. If you can only see this guy in his smoke, to being at 7.5 kilometers. So if you're at 7.5 kilometers, you can see him, but 7.8 kilometers, you can't see the guy because you're not close enough. I think that would have improved the push from everybody.
You mean when the person isn't shooting?
No, like Kudryashov's smoke detection is 7.7, right? If he's shooting in his smoke, and that guy at 18 kilometers can still hit me in that smoke because somebody's in that 8 kilometer range or the 7.7 kilometer range. I think that the smoke still should be viable to that guy at 18 kilometers because he's not close enough to see me.
I get it now. Yeah. So yeah, only the person who is within that suicide range should be able to.
Exactly.
I get it now. That's an idea. Maybe a little bit further out, but yeah, it certainly is a little weird. I don't like how spotting does work sometimes in this game, especially plane spotting. I can't tell you how much I hate that. But that is a good thought. It's a good idea. As it is now, I'm do it, so I just expect to if somebody creeps into me.
It's an old argument because smoke happened a long time ago. Same thing with radar. I mean, you could make a change to radar to make people to speed up the game a little bit to where they can do the same nonsense, or that you could take radar and have it ping around. You ping it and he's spotted for 4 or 5 seconds, and then it doesn't spot until it comes back around again, and that guy can maneuver and he still has a little bit of ability. If you do that, then you have to extend the radar range, or not range, but the radar time. So he's got 45 seconds or a minute of this ping time, but it's intermittent spotting, and I think that's probably a better way to do it because that's quote unquote more realistic if you really want to get technical about it.
Yeah, intermittent spotting was an idea that had been brought to me before. It sounds like it would work better now that the rendering has been solved, but before rendering had been solved, that would have been impossible to implement. Yeah. The only problem is that it sounds like a nightmare for wargaming to try to actually make and code, so I don't see it coming to the game ever. Yeah. I would like radar to be much more historical. I wouldn't mind if radar was a long duration consumable if it had shorter ranges and didn't go through islands. That would be a good idea. Make it like a hydro, whereas you get this extra detection, but you have to trade up the ability to see through islands for it. So that would also be cool. Hydro, I think, is in a perfect state, though.
I don't mind that. I don't mind. It is an issue, and I will agree that it is something that needs to be talked about, radar going through islands. But I don't think that is the most pressing thing for radar at the moment that people are making it out to be. You see it all over the forums. Radar should never go through islands. And I'm like, I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me that it goes through islands. Hydro goes through islands. That's fine. I don't care about that either. It's the fact that the ranges that it is, and then there's no... two reasons. The ranges, there's no counter, and three, I guess. They don't have to put themselves at risk. So the DD is just kind of out there in the middle of these camps, and he's not able to do anything about it. So that's
and negativity. The nice thing is that you can make the same argument for Hydro, but Hydro is a significantly defensive tool. Really, using Hydro offensive very rare occurrence, and if you're using it offensively, you're putting yourself in a very risky situation already. Absolutely. So but with radar, it's like there's no risk and there's no counterplay to that, so the person isn't risking their ship to spot you, and there's nothing you can do in return. So I do.
The only counter to that radar is not being in that range, and that in turn slows the game down. So
it's like the counter of how do I not die? Don't get shot. That's not a counter.
Go
Yeah,
go to the
no.
go to the J10 line and pray that your team carries you through this.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. We've talked about some of the pluses. We talked about some of the minuses. Let's go into the biggest, hottest topic. Now, please remember, guys, these are our opinions. If you guys have differencing of opinions, what we're about to say, go ahead and preface them in a question or leave us your comment at SirVenomIK here in the channel or at citizens9. And please just listen to the end because we are going to say a lot of things that you might not agree with. And we'll deal with those a little bit later on. So Battleship AP versus destroyers. Now this is a hot button topic that a lot of people have complained about, and there are rumblings in the community and rumblings from developers that they are looking into the way Battleship AP reacts with destroyers. Now you'll see some other streamers out there sit there and it should only overpin. It should only overpin, and I'm in the total opposite category. Being as when I play ranked, I play destroyers. When I play randoms, I play a lot of battleships when I play randoms, and I'm in the complete opposite category. Honestly I think it's fine the way it is. But I don't know. What do you think so far? And I'll go into more detail here in a minute. But what do you think?
Yeah, so I know this one's a tough one for a lot of people. My two main classes of ships are the cruiser, and then next is the destroyer. So high-tier DDs are not something I enjoy playing anymore. There's very few of them. The Kaba and the Harugumo are different just because of what they entail and what they can do. But when I'm playing a destroyer, I do not like being RNG'd by the game because somebody shot at me and they hit 2 shells and I just lost half my health bar. I know it can happen to cruisers, but the cruisers have the benefit of having heals for the most part, and they can come back from that. The problem I have with the DD getting blapped by Battleship AP is it goes against what AP stands for, whereas I'm perfectly okay with HE just demolishing my destroyer, because if I'm getting hit by HE, that person was either a cruiser, which should naturally counter me, a DD, which fine, I'm probably going to use HE on him too, or a battleship that loaded what the Wargaming has said is the right ammo choice. And unfortunately now with the British, the right ammo choice is always HE for them for some reason. Okay, well that's just a joke, but still they seem to always have HE loaded.
Well, it usually is.
Yeah. The problem is also compounded with the fact that at high tiers we have some extremely accurate battleships. I'm talking the Montana and the Yamato in particular. The pub is not very good at DD hunting just because of the 8 guns. Neither is the Kurfürst just because German.
It's the Kurfürst.
Yeah, but the Conqueror is also pretty good at fighting DDs just because all it needs to do is hit 1 or 2 HE shells and it just broke your ship. So you have these ships that I feel like they can do too much damage with 1 hit. I'm okay with an AP pen on a DD, but it should never be hitting for 4,000 damage. I would like to see an AP pen gate itself to 2,000, at the most, whereas your overpen is only doing like 1,000. So if it overpens, it does the overpen damage, and if it pens a DD, it does 2 times overpen damage. I think would be a better solution, because it still gives you the way to punish a DD for making a mistake, but it doesn't punish the DD because they got hit and there's nothing they could do about it. It doesn't overpunish the DD is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think I'm on the other side of this. Like I said, I think we're okay where it is now, because if I hit 3 or 4 shells on you, I should be rewarded for the accuracy of this boat most of the time. All right. Now, if we're talking over 10 kilometers, then yes, I totally agree with you. We need to do something about the thing. I think the fundamental problem of this is the 1 shell hit that's pinning twice, that's doing double damage. And yeah. I think that needs to go away. Still give me the reward of hitting that full pin. of 4,000 damage or whatever, and because I actually pinned you. If I hit you in the nose, it's going to rip out the back of your boat. I should be rewarded for that and not be punished for it. And I feel like they're punishing the battleship a little overly here, because what's the stop? All right, let's say you make this change. What's to stop that destroyer coming around the corner at 10 kilometers, and I have a 30-second reload on some of these battleships? I get 1 or 2 hits on you. I do 3,000, 4,000 damage. You still have 10,000 damage, 10,000 hit points left. What's to stop you from just running up on me and torpedoing me? I can't defend myself against this guy rushing in on me. Because why? If I turn, you're going to turn and drop torpedoes. If I stay still, you're just going to run right up next to me and drop torpedoes. You're going to outgo my guns, and I'm not going to be able to do anything for you. So I think over 10 kilometers we can talk. At 10 kilometers and under, you should be punished for being under 10 kilometers. And that's also to say, also to attail the destroyer's biggest thing. Well, the battleship shouldn't have been there. So you would rather me sit back at 18 kilometers for the entire game just so you guys don't rush around this corner on me? Well, that's not fair to me, and that's not fair to my team. I want it to be a good balance. I'm willing, and I'll even go this far. I'll even go this far with you, Citizen. I will go this far with you by saying I am willing to take that 2,000 damage hit. Take the full pin for 2,000 damage. All right? But you have to do 2 things. You got to make Expert Reloader better, or figure out some way to make it more efficient to switch over to HE, because that's the big. Everybody has to have a choice. Everybody has to choose something, and the battleships doesn't have to choose to get their damage. You still have to be able to be punished under 10 kilometers, or it's just you running in on me and torpedoing me the entire time. That's the biggest fears that I have if they do make this change as a battleship player.
So, the battleship versus the DD, the destroyer should always be the close range specialist. They have the speed and the maneuverability to do so. Whereas tier 10 battleships, they're sea slugs. They're not supposed to be turning very fast because this is a 70,000 ton vessel. That makes sense to me. I think that because it's a really rough thing to balance, because it just creates a nightmare no matter what you do if you make any changes.
No, you're not going to please everybody. And this is
you're
where,
not gonna, yeah, right. You're not going to please
This is where
anybody.
the majority of the community disagrees on, because I am willing to give up a few things as long as it's fair for both parties. Yes, you should not be smacked at 14 kilometers for 10,000 hit points. I've done it. Everybody's done it. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. Take that gearing from a Montana. You're going to take the damage at the moment. So over 10 kilometers, I'm okay with, but I still have to be some kind of modicum of defensiveness capabilities for this battleship, because at this point, you can still kill cruisers with destroyers. You can still kill battleships with cruisers and destroyers. But now you're taking the ability away from battleships to absolutely dominate and be the big dude on the map as it was intended to be. Now I know in this whole rock paper scissors lizard Spock nonsense that they throw out there, the cruisers end up indelibly doing more damage than the battleships do because of their fire chance. And now where do we go? And if they do change this to where I'm only getting overpins, or I'm taking half damage, which I'm still willing to do, but so I have to hit 6 shells on you, and then you can shut the fuck up because I hit 6 shells on you and you took 12,000 damage, or whatever it is. And
right. So you did. Can I just jump in?
Yeah.
You did have a point earlier about buffing Expert Loader, which sounds like a good idea, and I think it could potentially be something like the Concealment Expert. You know how Concealment Expert is different for each class of ship? Make it different for each class of ship with battleships or cruisers and DDs, because Expert Loader is completely worthless on a DD. It's amazing on higher tier cruisers, and there's only two battleships I run Expert Loader on. That is the Conqueror, because switching to AP to Blappa Cruiser can sometimes be really effective. And the second one is specifically because I have John Doe on the Montana. I run Expert Loader on that because
8 seconds. 8 seconds.
And you know why? It's 7.5, and the only time I really ever switch that HE is this is a Bowen battleship. I'm gonna be better off with the HE.
Yeah.
And that's basically it.
Right. So you have that choice. But then again,
Right.
when it goes to what makes it better, the thing is this is the
Right.
same. This is the
The
same argument that I have with the cruiser's fire chance versus the battleship dispersion that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, or we talked about last week as well. It is not efficient for us to switch over right now, because to get expert loader to work, say, let's just, for example, let's put it into a very hypothetical situation that's a perfect example. There's a cruiser out there and he's sitting broadside at, say, 15 kilometers, and I go ahead and I shoot my gun. Oh, well, guess what? Now, as soon as I blow my gun, here comes this DD around. It's going to take me 30 seconds to reload that gun, and then another what, 15 to 20 seconds to get that expert loader. I have lost 40 seconds, and this guy is gaining nothing but position on me, and there's nothing I can do about it. So it is not efficient for me to take expert loader because I have to reload. But you cannot change that. You cannot take the expert loader and be like, oh, expert loader should work when I hit that HE button, because then people just AP, and then they immediately switch to HE, and then they get that lower reload time. You have to figure out some way to make it better. Another option for us is to make secondaries actually good. Shorten the ranges, but make them accurate as fuck. That would be another option
that was another thing I was going to suggest is you could reduce the AP damage a battleship can do to only over 10, because keep in mind, if you hit 12 overpens with the Montana, you just did over 15,000 damage. The other thing was make it so that secondaries are accurate at closer ranges. So if you're sub 5 kilometers, I don't care. These secondaries are laser beams. That would also be something. Maybe not 5. That might be a little excessive, but make it so that secondaries are more accurate, which is going to really deter a DD. Because right now, if I do something where I get suicidally close to a BB with a DD, I'll probably kill the battleship and walk away with it. I'll lose a chunk of HP, but I'm okay taking a chunk of HP knowing I'll get a free kill out of it. So,
yeah. Well, we saw that in a lot of the rank seasons this season as well, especially on Sea of Fortune, where they got the AB cap in the middle. You go fight for Charlie. That's the right play on that board. First, fight for Charlie, and then you can move across into AB if you have time. Well, battleships, I remember one particular time that I was in a Yu-Yang and I was in AB. I had full health still. There was a Yamato sitting just off the other side, shooting out where A would normally be, off that, off the left-hand side of the board from the top, or right-hand side from the top. And I ran around the corner, full health. He hit me one time for about 4,000 damage, and I dropped 9 torpedoes into him, and I killed him. Just one, almost 100% to 0. And that is a rarity. And maybe he was in a bad position, or maybe I did something right. I don't know, but that should not happen. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, the fact that I was able to get in there and I barely took any damage because he hit me with one shell. And so I think that it was a little overtuned on my part. That there's got to be something else. Some other kind of deterrent for these guys to run, for me as a destroyer to run up on these guys, or else we just flat out just dominate it, and then battleships are useless.
Yeah, like I said, this is why it's a nightmare for gaming, because a lot of the times there's no middle ground. There's going to be people who are like you and me, whereas me, I hate it, and you think it's fine. But
there is a middle ground.
There is a middle.
There is a middle ground that we can.
There's a rough middle ground.
Can come together and we can agree on some of the things, and I totally understand that. I mean, over 10 kilometers, fine. Maybe we just go to all over pins or whatever. But if you go under 10 kilometers and you go to all over pins, like some of the other community members are stating, I think that breaks the game. I think that it breaks down the battleship versus DD dynamic to where it's heavily weighted into the DD's favor. Now I know it should be in the DD's favor, but not to that extreme. There still has to be some kind of a downside for the destroyer to run up on these guys.
Right. There definitely should be a downside, but there should also be if there's the other problem where if you're allowing a DD that to you where they run up on your ship, you should be punished for it, because that is a huge mistake you just made if you let a DD do that to you. So it shouldn't just be I get to free blop him. But if your guns are pointed at him and you know he's going to do it, you should honestly absolutely demolish that DD as well. That's something I do like about the Montana. Whereas if a DD tries to torpedo rush me and I have 12 guns pointed at him, you're not going to torpedo rush me anymore, dude. So that's kind of one thing that I do like. So I think another thing I would also like to see is there's another problem with HE that doesn't get discussed a lot when shooting a DD, and it's that your battleship AP, if it hits, 99% of the time is guaranteed damage. When you shoot HE and you hit a DD, who knows what's going to happen? You may get no damage whatsoever, or you may actually damage the ship. So
this is something that I've noticed, and this is another reason why HE is not a viable option for battleships, and you should just stay with AP most of the time when you're shooting on destroyers. Is the diminishing return factor. You'd say you take your Montana with its 12 guns and you hit all these shells, you do 6,000-7,000 damage to this guy, knock out a whole bunch of modules, but you don't end up killing anything. And then your next volley, 30 seconds later, you do 4,000 damage and you hit the same amount of shells. I mean, there's diminishing returns for HE damage on destroyers. And not only from battleships, and that's another reason why it's inefficient to switch over to HE, because of that diminishing returns. Yes, I'm going to get a 7,000 damage plop on the guy, but the next one's going to be 4,000 because I've already erased all of the health of those modules. So. And
it's not also just the diminishing returns; it's also the fact that I could shoot this salvo, and the damage is in no one's hands but RNG. So, did my shell just hit a turret? Cool, it did no damage. Did my shell hit an AA mount? Cool, it did no damage.
No damage, but it killed that AA mount.
Yeah, but it killed the AA mount. Cool. Yeah. The last thing I needed right now was to kill his AA mount. Whereas AP, if I hit a DD, I think under only very stupidly rare occasions do I hit a DD and not get damage for it. I've had it happen before, but it is so. Yeah, it's so extremely rare that it's not going to happen like that. But if I shoot, a ton of HE into you, well, what if I just saturated that part of your ship? Okay, well, now my shell's just completely worthless. So that is something that also I think should be changed to make it more enticing to actually use HE against a DD if we brought AP damage down. Because as it stands right now, the only ship that ever really shoots its HE at a DD, besides cruisers and DDs in the battleship category, is Conqueror.
And the secondaries, but that's another story.
Secondaries is a different story.
Secondaries is a joke. I'm sorry. And secondaries is a topic that we should have covered in the battleship discussion, but we can hold it off for another day. But anyway, so there's one other fundamental issue that I have with the destroyers, and that is if you do make any changes here. And this is another hot button topic. Well, not really a hot button topic. I'm trying to make it a hot button topic because if you change anything about the AP now, what kind of can of worms are you opening? If you change the AP, what's the next step? Where do you go next? Where's the next change? Well, now the HE is doing too much damage for me from cruisers. The Zow's hitting me for 10, 11,000 damage. Now that HE does too much damage. And so then they change that, and then so your AP's ineffective, your HE's ineffective. Well, battleships are still, their secondaries do too much, so now there's no secondaries on battleships, and then they take the battleships out of the damn game because nobody's playing them. And then now the cruisers AP does too much to to destroyers, and then they take that away, and then the HE's still doing too much damage, so they basically remove the deal. So where do you stop? And then it's just a bunch of destroyers running around shooting at each other, and then nobody's like, whoa, this game sucks because they've ruined it by changing this one thing. I think it's just a tip of the iceberg that's just going to roll into a big old shit ball, and shit rolls downhill, and everything is just going to be worse if they make this one simple change. Because if they can complain so much about one thing and they make the change, and it's a detrimental to the entire battleship class and arena, what's the next step? What do they start complaining about and bitching about next? So you got to be very careful. This is a very touchy change.
Yeah, and we definitely don't want to go back to how we beta when it was which team has the most shimikaze? Okay, you win because you get 20-kilometer nuclear bombs that you can throw across the map no one can see. So we definitely don't want to go back to something as bad as that. And that's why wargaming should really have a policy of incremental changes, very small changes that are not drastic in any way, to help you figure out, did this change that I'm making, am I going in the right direction? Because there's been a lot of changes recently that have been incremental that I like the Hindenburg nerfing the Zao with a slight torpedo buff. It's incremental where it's not insane. The Zao is a
Zao
different
didn't
can of
need
worms.
12-kilometer torpedoes.
No, it did not.
We would have been fine with 10s, but they don't do that here at Wargaming. And I've been playing for almost 3 years now, and I've seen it. My first line, what they released, was the German battleships when I first started playing. And I started playing before that, but either way, it's not the point. And they have gone to extremes when they make changes. And I think this is kind of an issue because it is a very, very harsh reality. You have to immediately adapt to the situation, or you're gonna hate life.
Exactly.
You saw it with the smoke change. You saw it when the Belfast just kind of when the Belfast came out. That thing is ridiculous. It's still ridiculous, so I think it's still a little overrated, but honestly, that's my own opinion. But you can take it from here, man. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because there's been several instances in this game where we just made a massive to every ship in the entire game. Smoke changes was one of them. Stealth fire changes was one of them as well. And it's just like it completely throws the game for a loop, and everybody has to try to figure out the meta again.
Let's be fair. That stealth fire nerf needed to happen.
Stealth fire is a good change, and I think overall smoke changes have been good for the longevity. I think some of it's a little overtuned still, but I think it was a good change for the health of the game. But it's still the problem of it's a massive sweeping change that it takes your game and turns it on its head, and that's going to discourage, one, a lot of people, and two, it's just like, I don't want to have to go through this. You should always be incremental with your changes because it allows people to adapt to them slowly and figure out where it's going to go from here. Whereas if you just throw people in a sink or swim situation, it's kind of rough. And I don't want a sink or swim to happen with battleships and DDs. I think if we do slight changes to them now to make it more balanced, that would help out. Whereas if we do a large change and then all of a sudden shit is whack and DDs are running amok everywhere, it's not going to be a game I want to play.
Yeah, that's something that definitely needs to work out. Big sweeping changes, and I've said it. You've heard it. I mean, you're a streamer here on Twitch. You guys could follow him over at twitch.tv/citizens9, and you understand the fact that you have these people in your channel, and I hear it every time some kind of big change comes out. The stealth fire nerf is coming out. I'm never playing this game again. I'm uninstalling. You hear that all the time. You heard it with the smoke change. You heard it with that change. Any
I hear it with the carrier changes too.
People don't want change. People don't like change. They want things to change, but in reality, they really want things to just stay status quo. They want things to be the same. And unfortunately, there's things for the health of the game. And I only complain about this on my channel, and I know you probably complain about some of these things on your channel as well. And it's because we care about the change. We care not to change, but not to change necessarily, but we care about the game. The only reason I get so frustrated about this game is because it is some of these mechanics are broken. The amount of fires that a battleship is on is a little broken. The amount of retaliatory fire that I can get with its hit or miss dispersion is a little broken. There needs to be a little bit more consistency with some of the mechanics with the game, and because it's not that, and because I care and I enjoy the game. Hell, I made partner through this game, so I feel kind of loyal to this game, and I enjoy the game still. I'm still playing it. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't play it. Hence the month off I took. So I care about the game. This is why we're bringing any of this up. This is why we've started the podcast, is because we actually give a shit. And I think that a lot of people don't give a shit, and they are just out for, I play a destroyer, I play a battleship, let's adjust the game to help me out because this is the class that I play. And that's not what I'm about. I don't think that's what you're about, Citizen. I want to adjust the game to make it fair and balanced for everybody. And I know balancing issues are always going to be something with a game like this, especially in multiplayer, a multiplayer situation that we have. So who knows what's going to happen coming up next. There's a few things that are coming up next, and we'll go ahead and we've been going for about an hour and a half now. So we got a little bit more time here, and then we'll go into the Q&A. Guys, if y'all do have questions or comments or concerns or anything about anything that we've said tonight, please preface them in the chat with @ServantofMyK or @citizens9, and then we can address those coming up when we're done with our topics here. So, you got any other thing about what we've talked about tonight that we didn't touch on? Any other
prepared for this question? Oh God.
Well, I mean, just some things that are on your mind about the destroyers and the way that they're playing.
We kind of skipped over it when we were playing, or when we went over the new season of Ranked. That was the ships and the tier.
I was gonna go into that here in just a minute. Okay. But any other bonuses and any other good things about destroyer? Let's talk about the Royal Navy destroyers. I mean, those are relatively new. I don't know. I know you've been pretty busy the last couple of weeks. So you haven't really gotten into them very much.
I have the tier 5. Makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, obviously I keep up with YouTube and stuff like that. I haven't really been playing ships the last few weeks just because full-time job and.
That dreaded JERB word, man. The gerb.
Yeah, going full time at work. Plus, I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2 and having more fun with that than ships. I know that'll eventually switch, and ships will come back to be my mainstay in life eventually. But it goes in a cycle. I have been keeping up on some of the new ships that are going to be coming out, such as Alaska, Jean Bart, and the new Royal Navy DDs
before we go into this, Jean Bart's up. The rumors are the Jean Bart's up for the next patch.
Oh, the next patch?
That's what I heard.
I thought I just saw on Reddit that they had finalized it, and then they said, "Never mind, we're not finalizing this."
Oh, okay. Well, that was what I was going off of. So if they said it on Reddit, it's not ready, then it's probably not going to be this patch. But
Reddit's usually pretty good about the development blog.
Yeah.
Some of the opinions there.
Yeah, that's another story.
But
Reddit's just
I've been saving my coal and my free XP because I'm really excited for the Alaska. I think anyone who has followed with the game has wanted that ship in this game for a very long time because it's essentially the only battle cruiser the United States ever made, and it sounds like a ship that I know I personally want. And seeing footage of it, it looks like it's going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to play. I think it's going to have a skill gap to it, and that's what I love in this game. I don't think any common potato is going to take the Alaska and play it well because they're going to play it like something it's not. And the Alaska, I feel, is going to be a very unique ship that you have to, play to its own strengths.
I think the Alaska is going to be a very mobile ship. If you're sitting still in this boat, you're wrong.
No, it doesn't have the armor to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is, it's a battle cruiser, so it's got battleship guns.
There's still cruiser in that word, and you have to learn how to play to that ship's. It's not going to be fragile, but it's not going to be tanky in any way. So.
No. Yeah. So you're definitely.
I think it's kind of funny that I used the dreaded F word watching Flamu's video where he just took it into a training room and just broadsided it, and nobody could citadel him at a super close range. It's going to be a little fun to play around with. And I think it's going to be a fun and a good addition to the game. Not game-breakingly overpowered, but a fun ship. And I think the first iteration I saw of the other ship that's going to be soon coming to Tier 9, the Jean Bart, a little bit, dumb. I know they toned down reload booster, but the problem is reload booster and battleship guns are a little...
I don't know, man. The reload booster on the battleship, it's a Richelieu, which is a fantastic boat at Tier 8.
Yep, the Richelieu is amazing.
So
we just took a Richelieu and made it better in every way.
Made it better in every way. The only issue that I have with this, and it's the issue that I have with majority of the battleships at Tier 8, 15-inch guns. These are the absolute drizzling shits of guns at Tier 8 because of the fact that I have an update for this because I know I've been tracking it for about a week and a half now. I have played. Let's go to the counter here. 15, 20, 30, 45, 46, 46, 47, 48, 49 games. 49 games at Tier 8 over the past 2 weeks. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. 26 of those 46 games have been in Tier 10. So over half. And then 15, 16 games at Tier 8 top, and then 6 games at Tier 9 top.
So it's not every game.
No, it's pretty
that's
much
not a good ratio.
That is not a good ratio for Tier 8s, and that's something. And I'm going to continue to track that out as long as I can actually remember.
I think the game would be
out.
Better off if we did have a +1, -1 instead of +2, -2 split. It would really help out a lot of ships. That would remove essentially preferential matchmaking that the lower tiers get because everyone's got preferential matchmaking. So Tier 5 doesn't get ass blasted by Tier 7s all game, which if you've ever played Tier 5, it feels like you're just bottom tier every game.
I think the only saving grace for Tier 5 is the destroyers. Destroyers have the unique ability to up tier relatively well.
And that one battleship.
Yeah. Well, I mean
that can. The Tier 5 that plays like it's a Tier 6 can definitely handle its Tier 7.
So getting back to the point of the 15-inch guns is that you're going up against Yamatos, GKs, Montanas. A majority of your time, over half of the games that you're going to play are going to be at bottom tier, and that's something that the 15-inch guns just do not handle very well. So it does push a very patient style of play to where you have to wait for these guys to go broadside to do anything against other battleships. You still do relatively well on cruisers. You still do relatively well on destroyers as well, but you're just kind of a floating thing. You can't really defend yourself at Tier 8 too often from Yamato shells. I think maybe the Roma can, but that's probably the tankiest boat at Tier 8 anyway. But
yeah, the Roma has other strengths to make those 15-inch guns in the games.
Right. So where do you go? It's 15-inch guns. I'm excited for the John Bart. I'm excited for the Alaska, and I just want to get the Alaska just so I can prove to some of these community contributors out there that played the boat twice, 2 or 3 times, and said this thing is hot garbage. And I heard this. Guy played it his 3rd game. This thing sucks. This thing is terrible. They need to do other things.
Do you know who Senpai NA is?
Yeah.
He's one of the streamers who's also
in my clan. Out there again? All right. Jesus. My dogs got a possum cornered out in my yard like they did last night. But and I'll have to go address that here in a minute. But either way, yeah, I know who Senpai is. Everybody knows who Senpai is.
So he actually for the first iteration was so angry that ship was, and 3 days later he loved it. Yeah. So I think it's a ship that's going to grow on people.
It's got the same guns, and there's something that I did see in the first iteration that I thought was kind of broken a little bit on the negative side for the Alaska is when you sit there and you look at what the Kronstadt and the Stalingrad can do with their ridiculous pin value, hitting cruisers just 3 and 4 citadels from the butt, and just blasting these people from the side. And you have the same size guns on the Americans, and the pin value is way different. And I find so to me the Alaska plays more of a Scharnhorsty type role, not necessarily as tanky as the Scharnhorsts be, but you're not aiming for citadels. You're aiming, if you're fighting against battleships, you're aiming for the deck lines. You're trying to get that deck line armor, but on cruisers you should dominate cruisers, which it should do, and as well with the destroyers.
Right. I don't know. They gave it those pen angles for a reason, so it's going to just absolutely demolish cruisers that ever dare to give it a broadside, just like a Des Moines currently does. No cruiser can withstand Des Moines AP. It will find that citadel like no other cruiser can. the thing about the Alaska is that I think it's going to be a fun and unique boat. But what you were talking about was the 15-inch guns, and then you kind of got sidetracked there. But I wanted to go back to that because the 15-inch guns, I know what they're going for. Because you're right, 15-inch guns at tier 8 start to have struggles, and at tier 9 and tier 10, they're going to be struggle boats.
Except
because
for the
you're going to
Alsace.
run in. The Alsace is unique because it also has, my opinion, the best secondary suite of guns in the entire game.
Agreed.
In terms of the amount of fires you can get. And, well, the Gene Bart's also got the same secondaries for those who don't know. But the 15-inch guns, they're meant to be the ultimate mistake punisher. Whereas if you make a mistake in front of a Gene Bart and you give it a broadside, the design is that you get blapped. And I don't like that, because what happens if you know how to fight that ship? I remember I fought a Gene Bart in my Des Moines. He did like 10,000 damage to me and switched to HE. He couldn't do anything. His AP was completely worthless, so he's like, I gotta just use HE because that's the only thing I can use. So it's just like, well, what's the point of these ships if the only thing they can really do is just demolish a poorly angled ship? Now their HE is going to still be potent when they have the booster up, sure, but it just seems like it's going to be something that you get yourself into a lot of frustrating situations in which your ship can't perform. And if you're going to also be in that ship, you're just going to get into situations where your ship overperforms. And so it's just going to be a little too extreme, in my opinion, and I think it should be toned down.
Well, I do have a shot. I'm not gonna link it because if you guys were here for it, you guys understand. I was in Roma, and I'm sitting over there on the seaside of Hotspot, and go into the camp. There's Yamatos pushing into the camp as well, and right there, everybody goes in from the bottom side where they sit behind that island to be a DD. Yamato's right there behind that island, and I'm rolling up on him. He doesn't slow down enough. He comes out, and I hit him for 82,000 damage. I detonated the guy, but still, I had 2 citadels on him, which it was going to do, 20,000, 30,000 damage, maybe.
What ship were you in?
The Roma.
Oh.
But I was point blank. I was like 2 or 3 kilometers away, so the guns can pin. And I hit him right under the front turret.
Roma guns have extremely high pen. The problem is the accuracy in that if you angle, pen doesn't matter when an auto bounce check.
Exactly. So the guns aren't god awful. They just, any kind of angle on it, you're not going to get the damage you need. So I find the Bismarck is failing, the Tirpitz is failing, the Roma, as good as it is a failure. With it because of the guns. The Richelieu is a failure because of the guns, even though it's a fantastic boat and I do enjoy playing those. I feel that the 15-inch gun in this game is the absolute worst battleship gun that they have ever done. Now, we want to talk about, we're talking about tier 8 only. Now, if we want to go back and we want to talk about something like the Warspite that has the 15-inch gun, those things are amazing because what are you fighting against? You can overmatch everything at tier 6. And so, I mean, moving along to the next deal, guys. I know our opinions are some guys might agree or disagree with our opinions here. Now's the time for you guys to put those questions in. If y'all have any comments or concerns about what we have said, please feel free to do it. And let's go ahead and talk about our last subject here is what tier 5 ranked boats are we going to talk about? What do we think the tier 5 ranked boats are going to be? I personally, I have probably going to end up playing a few things. What are you going to play if you get a chance?
Yeah, so I will probably play a ton of ships for this rank season, as much as I have games allowed. But I was thinking the best way probably just dive into it by ship category.
All right, so let's start with the carrier. Obviously, Zuiho is going to be superior to the Bogue.
Zuiho will be good just because I have 2 torpedo squadrons, I believe is what it still has. Tier 5 carriers, I don't think they're that strong.
No.
I don't feel like if you're playing those in ranked, you're going to have a bad time just because those things are like watching paint dry. They're very boring to me.
Here's
just because it's auto drop only.
Here's the thing. Let's look at what are you going to be playing against. The only thing that has relatively good AA is what?
Mermanx.
The Texas.
The
Texas. If you full AA spec the German battleship, you'll be doing some plane kills. So there's a little bit of diversity. I think it's going to be very hard for destroyers to counter any of these CVs because they could just put a plane over you and nothing's going to be able to shoot it down. I mean, your kamikaze has some dude sitting out on the back with a Nambu pistol, which we'll talk about that.
That is its AA. No, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. The AA is terrible. Terrible.
It has, I believe, 2 AA DPS at 1 kilometer.
Yeah,
pretty good.
And so it's guaranteed damage at that 1 kilometer, right? So Zuiho over the Bogue just for the 2 torpedo squadrons, and it's gonna be.
I don't think they're gonna be
pain in the ass.
Powerhouses.
They're gonna be annoying. I don't think that they're gonna be game breaking like say the Midway is, or obviously the Midway.
Nah, definitely not.
Yeah,
so
we're talking about 5 tiers of a difference. Zuiho over the Bogue. Cruisers. Let's go to cruisers.
Cruisers. All right. So it's an interesting one.
Any of these cruisers should be viable. I think the Murmansk is probably a really strong choice for
Murmansk because you get that range that none of the other cruisers can work with.
Outrange. Kirov is going to be another good one. They're all pretty solid. Let's be fair.
They're all solid boats. There's just there's a couple problems at that tier, but I think any cruiser you use is going to be pretty solid, except for one exception, and that thing is the Marblehead. Don't use the Marblehead, people.
I told them, guys, for $1,000, I'd rank out in just the Marblehead Omaha Murmansk combination. That's what I said.
I'm not going to pay you $1,000. That's
now,
too much.
I don't want anybody to pay me $1,000 because God damn it, I don't even want to like those boats to begin with. Those boats are awful.
I don't think the Omaha's too terrible. I've been playing it because I just bought it back for the memes, but Omaha is certainly viable if you play it. It is a frustrating boat because at any time you can just get shot and get citadel.
Yeah,
by anything. It overmatches itself. It's a light cruiser.
That's why I think that whole entire 4-boat section is just the trash. Because when I was coming up, when I first started playing the game, I started playing Japanese cruisers, American battleships, American destroyers, and everything that I was doing was there's an Omaha over here, kaboom, and it would explode. So I lost. I'm like, I don't even want to play this thing, you know. So it took me a good 2 years before somebody finally said, "Yo, why don't you play that Omaha?" And I'm like, "Oh, the Omaha sucks. It's a piece of trash. It just you can't. Their guns are fine, but everything else on it is just god awful, and I don't want to play it." So it took him. Some guy was like, "Here, I'll give you $50 to play it," and I was like, "All right, fine." And I did it, and I finally pushed through it, and it wasn't too awful, but it took 15 games or something like that to play through it, and the 15 the most excruciatingly bad, horrible experience that I've ever had playing through that boat. Man, it was god awful.
I think Emerald's also going to be pretty much crap, so don't use that.
Nah, I don't think the Emerald's got any.
But I think everything else is pretty viable. I'm not going to speak for the Krasny Krim just because I've never actually played it. Some people love that
Krispy Kreme is a Svetlana at tier 5.
Yeah, some people love that ship.
It is a hit or miss boat. Now I've never played it, but I have watched a guy named Mo Like It. He's a YouTuber and also in the 5-inch clan here. He absolutely swears by this thing. So he's going to be playing this Krispy Kreme, and it is a fantastic boat. I've watched him play this thing, and if somebody gets it into their head to play a boat and they can figure out how to make it work consistently, play it. Everybody else be damned. Play what you're comfortable with when it comes to cruisers and destroyers. But let's move on into battleships. Texas stands out for AA. Julius Caesar. I mean, that's a big one. October Revolution. We'll see a lot of those as well. What do you think?
Yeah. So my pick for best battleship in its tier, Julius Caesar. It's pretty much been that way since it came out. I don't think there's ever been really a ship that can challenge it, except for higher tiers. But at its tier, no, it's always been the best. That could change, of course, if they ever release something crazy. But if you don't have the Caesar, there's definitely still other options. The Congo is a great ship just because it's very flexible, and you do get larger caliber guns with 14, which not everything gets at that tier.
And it's also very quick. That's something the Congo reminds me of the Republic from this season because it had the ability to get out to the flank the Republic did and just really get those cross shots. So if the Congo's accuracy is in, which everybody knows the IJN at that lower tier from from tier 4 all the way up to tier 7, tier 8 is questionable. You're going to have one game that you're going to hit everything. The next game you don't hit squat. And that's nothing that you can do about it. So if the Congo's accuracy's in, I have a recorded 170,000 damage game in that pink one.
Yeah.
In the ARP one. So I mean it can be worth doing. October Revolution, what do you think about that one?
The problem I have with the October is it's just slow. It's too slow. The Julius Caesar and the Congo are both very fast battleships for their tier. Everything else is going to be kind of just pathetic in comparison, honestly. And then the October Revolution has a couple problems. Its heal or its repair is pretty good, but the problem with that ship is it's just not that great. So I wouldn't recommend it.
I think it's relatively tanky. You can't really pin that bow with anything at the tier. So unless you catch it sideways, you're pretty much not going to do any damage to it.
Yeah, I think it's fine, but you got to remember it's a 12-gun ship. It's decently accurate, but it just doesn't feel like it hits very hard at all. And
it's an up-close boat.
It is an up-close boat. The problem is you go 20 knots. So
it's relatively slow, just like the Texas is. They're both pretty slow.
If you're buying a premium because you want the most competitive ships here, the October Revolution is not it.
Julius Caesar would be my choice for a battleship if I'm playing. And let's go now. This next one, everybody's going to have their own opinions on it. Now, when you're playing this tier, you have to decide what you want to do. Do you want to be part of the meta, or do you want to counter the meta? Because I guarantee you the meta is going to be one division. It's going to be a Julius Caesar and a Kamikaze Fujin Kamikaze R, some kind of that combination. Now you'll see the rare Grimiashi, and then you're going to see those guys that are playing anti-meta. Maybe they haven't gotten to the boats that gotten to some of these boats, so you're going to see a lot of Nicholases, and I think Nicholas is going to be the gunboat of choice here for people to counter these. DDs, the Kamikaze.
So most people don't know this about the Nicholas. At least I don't think most people do. It actually has concealment of 5.7. Comparison to the Kamikaze or the Fujin, all those little ones, it's 5.4. And those ships just do not have gun power. However, of course, they do have absolutely insane, disgusting torpedo power for their tier. Yeah. And honestly, the Kamikazes and the Fujins, I'm just going to call it the Kamikaze, those are the best DDs at tier 5.
Hands down.
Now, that's just because the torpedo power plus the concealment is amazing. There are going to be other amazing ships. The Gremiashi is also going to be fantastic for tier 5, and so will the Nicholas. I don't think anything else is really going to be competitive.
The Mitsuki and the whatever the other one is, they're Japanese DDs. If you're gonna play one, if you have a Kamikaze, you might as well just play that one because it's gonna be hands down better than any of the other. Yeah. If you play the OK Hotnik, maybe it's a choice, but I think the guns turn too slow to.
The Ohotnik at least has the benefit of that 6 out of its 7 guns have 360-degree angles. And it can vomit out 12 torpedoes, so the Ohotnik's not going to be terrible. It's never been a terrible ship, but it's not the best option. It's just that I feel like tier 5 DDs are dominated by the Gremiashi and the Kamikaze. Now, if you don't have a high point captain for Russian DDs, don't bring the Gremiashi, guys.
No, you need at least what, 16 points, 14 points.
It needs a lot of captain points in order to be a viable ship. It just does not perform without the right captain. So
agreed. I think,
whereas the Kamikaze just needs 10. No, you're good.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You can get away with 10 on that one and be just fine. Now, when we talk in Kamikaze, we're also including the Fujin and the Kamikaze R because they're exactly the same all the way through. So,
no, this one is a different camo. Then.
This one's got a different camo, Venom. Yeah, well, I'm gonna. Camo. Anyway, the only one I had for a long time is the Fujin, and I have some relatively good games. And they did a a free giveaway for the Kamikaze not too long ago, so I was able to pick that one up. I do not have the Kamikaze R, so it doesn't really matter. They're all the same boat. So you're gonna have to rely on your cruisers doing things for you to defend yourself. If you are playing a Kamikaze, you cannot be willy-nilly with your boat, because you can get hurt very quickly if you do happen to get spotted by a Nicholas. The Grimmy, you're going to play it more like a kebab style. You're just going to keep the guns hot and just be an annoying little turd. Nicholas is going to be the counter. Well, let's talk about the John Wayne, man, at tier 5 for the Pan Asian Destroyer.
Okay.
That look. The John Way, it's not a terrible boat. I think it's only got 4 guns on it, so I don't know how effective it's going to be.
Not terrible, but the problem is that when a DD versus DD fight, torpedo power is actually significant. Well, that's something the Nicholas does bring, because it has really good torpedo angles, and it has 12 of them. Whereas the John Way, it has these little, it's actually 5 guns, the 120 millimeter pew-pews. Yeah. The problem is that that's really all it's got going for.
Deepwater Pete's, man, and this is something that I've always said kind of hurts the line in my eyes. As good as especially let's look at tier 7 real quick. The Gajimata is a boat that everybody says is fantastic, and I think that it is lacking the just overall presence on the board because of its torpedoes. When you're putting in a ranked situation, and this is why I was very hesitant to play the Yu Yang this season, is that how many times when you're playing the tier 6 ranked season, you have your Hatsuharu, Fubuki, or Shinonome, and you're dropping torpedoes across the thing, and you're hitting these DDs and devastating these DDs early, hitting them with 1, they don't die, but now they've only got 3,000 hit points left. You just don't get that factor. There's no area of deniability torpedoes for the DDs, so you are actively having to hunt these guys. And if you're not doing it, then you're failing as a destroyer. Especially in a ranked situation.
The Gajimata, I wouldn't say is a good competitive. I would say it's a good ship for farming damage in random battles. That is what it excels at, because extremely high fire chance for a DD, coupled with deep water torpedoes, means it's hard for cruisers and battleships to dodge them, and if they can't dodge them, they can't dodge the floods. So that's just what it's really good at. I wouldn't say it's a good ship for comp at all. Because...
I agree. I tend to agree. I mean, there's better ones out there now. There's better options out there. The Nicholas is probably going to be the most anti-DD gunboat out there.
I think, because I like to think of it this way, not everyone has the premium ships. So
True.
If you have to have a silver option, I'd go for the Nicholas. And if you just can't stand American playstyle, and you really want something Japanese, you'd want to go for the Minakaze. I would avoid the fishing boat, which is the T-22. And I don't think the John Wayne has much going for it in terms of the torpedo power just not being there in a DD fight. It's got good smoke potential just because whenever it does need to smoke, they're usually up. But and the gun power is just not that great on that ship either.
No, I tend to agree. All right, boys, so there you go. There's our picks. Top pick, just down to run down the Battleship, Destroyer, and Cruiser, your top 3 picks. Just ones that you'll probably play the most. Mine are probably Julius Caesar, Kamikaze, and if I do happen to play the Cruiser, it'll probably be the Kirov.
I'm looking at Caesar, and then I'm going to probably try to play Kamikaze and Miyashi. And, I have the Nicholas in my port, so why not try that out for some fun? Right. And then if I have to play a cruiser, I'm looking at, honestly, all of them.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with cruisers here. Yeah. All right, boys, so let me know what you guys' thoughts are. Now is the time for Q&A, and I don't really have any questions. Nobody's really asked anything. So we can discuss whatever you guys want to discuss for the next probably 10 minutes or so, and then he's got to go get him some food because he has not eaten yet. He is starving because I can hear his stomach gurgling.
Mom.
Any other things we can recap real quick? The news coming out. Any idea when the CV update will drop? No, that's
Tuesday.
Still,
inside source.
Soon.
Just kidding.
It's on. Yeah.
I believe Wargaming did want it to be done by the end of the year, but I really can't guarantee anything. Typical for an announcement of that size, within 8 months, you can expect it to be dropped in the game of when they announced it. So I would say we're probably about 6 months out at the latest.
I'm a DD main. You can't wait. I'm I'm still fearful for those rockets and the amount of fires that they're going to be able to put out there. And it's something we didn't talk about.
I don't
that
think
we can
the rockets...
we can drop in on here, because I'm sorry to cut you off here, but I've really got to say something about this that is a very big concern. There's been a fundamental shift from this one shots that we talked about earlier to a dot heavy meta. Fires everywhere, and they've got to do something about this rockets, because you and me both know that as a CV player comes in, he's not just going to be content with those rockets going out on those DDs. He's going to bring those rockets out and he's going to drop them on those battleships and set them on fucking fire. We are battleship players. They're on fire all of the time, pretty much all game long. I remember I had one game the other day. I had 19 fires on me, and our the battleship's damage control party is not up to the task of more dots. And I think that they need to really, really look. And I know this is all up in the air because I have not seen any of the information on the AA rework. So this is all speculation right now. And so I hope they do the AA rework good to where it's actually viable for a battleship again to not be set on fire all the time, so we can actually shoot some planes down, because that's the biggest fundamental flaw of fighting against the CV, is that your AA is so inconsistent at every tier.
Yeah, that is also true. I just want to drop in and say I don't think rolled for a DD. I mean, yeah, they were hitting, but they weren't doing massive alpha damage. I think the problem is also going to be that you're also going to have to suffer through some dot damage on the DD. And when those rockets were hitting other classes of ships, the amount of rockets that they spew out is pretty much guaranteeing a 100% fire chance wherever the part of the ship the rockets hit. And I think that is not okay, because then it's just like, why am I... it's like, do I spec AA or do I just want to spec full fire prevention? And the answer is just going to be full fire prevention, because you got to deal with the cruisers in the game as well. So it's just going to make it even more burn.
That leads to another topic. Fire prevention's not good enough, because if I'm on 3 fires and I only burn for a portion of my health because of the 3 fire locations, I'm still on those fires all of the time.
Right.
So
yeah. If you're not long.
If you're keeping it there and you really want this to be, and you don't really want to change it, you've got to shift it from a 4-point commander skill to something lower. Shift it to 3 points for the 3 fires, because at 4 points in time right now, there is no reason for anybody to ever take that thing, because it's worthless, because you're still on fire all of the time. And just having 3 fires is not worth it in my eyes.
Yeah, I can see the amount of dots that these carriers are setting, even the dive bomb dots. So I think it might be a little too overtuned based off of what we see now. Obviously, this is just speculation, because Wargaming has every opportunity right now to tone it. To be, maybe the rockets have higher pens so they can get some alpha damage and the fire chance is a lot lower.
I would be okay with that. How many CV players do you think will actually be that good in their planes in there anyway? Pooper Panzer, that's a relative question, because at the beginning nobody's going to be good at it. But the people like Poppin' and Poopy, myself, I'll probably jump on it for a little while, and if it's something that I enjoy playing early and figuring out how to do it, I'm going to get decent at it eventually. And then I know Fem's going to be playing it. I know you'll probably jump on it for a couple of times. I know some CV mains that are not going to play it at all. They're going to uninstall the game, and they already have. But I also know some other guys that are, I'd like to try that. That looks kind of fun to play. And these guys, they're going to capture some of these things. You're going to see CVs pretty much every game for the, as soon as it releases for about 3 months, you're going to have a CV in every damn game. So people are going to get good at this. They're not going to be good right away, because there's a little bit of a skill change from what they know now to what they are moving forward. So eventually the skill cap is going to be out to where the majority of the CV players are halfway decent at what they're doing. So,
yeah, I do agree with that. I don't think the skill cap is going to be as right now, because as we have CVs right now, it's either you get that 15% win rate carrier player, you get the 85, 90%. So I think it's going to bring it down a bit, which is a good thing. And I think we're going to see a lot more carrier players, which will allow us to get a lot more people to be playing carriers. A lot more people playing carriers means we're going to get a lot more good players and a lot more bad players, but I think it's going to even out in the end. So
I think it's going to even out in the end. Right
yeah,
now, you heard it here first. Citizen9 going to be a CV main after the rework.
Confirmed.
Hashtag
nothing but British carriers. Let's go.
British carriers. Yeah, that's something they haven't said. Do you think it's time for them to introduce another line of carriers?
Nope, not until they fix what they currently have.
Well, with carriers is a whole nother episode of the podcast, and I will address
just
that
quick
the
reference. There's no point in introducing any form of the British carriers, which would probably be the next and only line of carriers I can see coming to the game. And the problem of introducing them is, what system would you introduce them into right now? You know, so I would expect them to come after the carrier rework.
I would think any other carriers that come in, and this also goes into adjust. How do you adjust what's currently out there? How do you adjust the Enterprise, the Kaga? I think the torpedo spreads on the Enterprise and the Kaga are ridiculous. There's no reason for that, and you should be able to give that option to all of the other lines, because then they become guaranteed damage. Right. Even though the Kaga's torps are terrible and they don't hit very hard, you can still hit a lot of them.
You still get 12 torpedoes. Yeah. But no, it's definitely something that I expect British carriers to enter the game eventually once we get a in the game and we get a balance, because it's going to be it'll be a little rough at first with a CV rework, but eventually hopefully Wargaming's quick about it and they get some balance fixes for it as quickly as possible. That's
one thing that they do, is they have addressed some of these situations, and in the past with this is broken, so they are actively trying to fix these things. I just feel that some things that are going to be broken a little bit longer now, because of we're only updating the game and only patching the game once a month or whatever, and moving forward. So there you go, boys. That is it. Citizen is there talking with his mother, I believe. So we will go ahead and close it out. Does the Salem generate more credits than the Demonies? I'm not real sure.
Technically, yes. Okay, I can go ahead and answer that one. Yeah. The reason why the Salem generates credits is it does earn a slight benefit from premium. It being a premium ship, not much, but it also has less of a cost to repair the ship after a game. The reason for that is it gets a premium camouflage, which cuts the repair costs in half, but by default, Salem has its repair costs cut in half. So it's technically 1/4 of the repair cost compared to a normal tier 10. So that's why it does earn more credits than the DM. Yeah. However, never get a Salem, get the Des Moines Legendary module, and you'll have the best ship in the game.
Man, I played the Salem, and I've actually enjoyed playing the Salem, and I don't really enjoy playing cruisers all that much at that higher tier. So anyway, guys, I am Sir Venom IK. You guys can hang out here. We will come down, and I'm actually going to go take a break for about 10 or 15 minutes, because I have some things to go take care of in the house, and then we will be back up for our normal stream coming up shortly. Citizen, tell them where they can find you, man.
All right, yeah, I stream. Do you get it? No, I'll go ahead and throw my name down.
There you go. It's been on the screen the whole time. Twitch.tv/citizens9.
You can see the highest level gameplay that's ever been. Ships. No one has actually played the game better. True story.
This guy.
Looking to get back into World of Warships soon. Once I get out of my training program with work and get a more set schedule going down.
There you go. All right, boys. Thank you very much for hanging out with us tonight, man. I do appreciate you for coming on. I know we were trying to
get out of this wood chair. My ass is starting there.
Yeah, I bet,
my desk chair back.
I know we tried to do it last week. I apologize for not being able to make that work. And you're more than welcome to come back. Come back anytime. Just let me know if you want to be on the podcast, and we can get it done, and I'll let you know. So anyway, guys, for all of us here, you got anything else you want to talk to them about, real quick?
I mean, I already said Des Moines Legendary module like 2 minutes ago, so no.
Des Moines Legendary module, best module in the game. All right, boys, that's it from us. I am Sir Venom. He is Citizen S9. Thank you very much for episode 6 of the Across Your Bound podcast. The State of the Destroyers has now completed. We have concluded it. We talked about pretty much everything that I could think of about destroyers. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, I will be streaming a little bit later on, and we guys could continue to talk about it. If you guys have any ideas for the podcast or any topics or people that you would like to see, join into the Discord and go into the podcast idea tab and write those down there. I do check those every time it pops up. So there you go. I think next week I have got OGisms is going to come on, and we're going to just chit chat about whatever. OGisms, that's right, man. We're going to have some Jack Daniels apparently, because he said I'd only do it if I drink with him. So there we go. So we're going to have a little bit of Jack Daniels next week, and we're going to talk about ships with OGisms. So thank you very much one more time for Citizen S9 for coming on. I am Sir Venom IK. This is a Cross Your Bow podcast. I can see you out there on the maps, boys.
All right. See you later, Venom. Night.